Do you feel stuck with your current bank? Move up with Philadelphia Federal Credit Union. We're a not-for-profit, full-service financial institution equipped with personal and small business banking services. Unlike banks, we invest in members, not greedy shareholders, allowing competitive loan rates and fewer fees. Plus, we provide free financial education to our community. If you live, work, worship, study, or do business in Philadelphia or Columbia counties, then you can open an account at pfcu.com today. Philadelphia Federal Credit Union. Not here for our profit, here for yours. Insured by NCUA.
Who doesn't like wine? I love wine. I am so excited to share this session with you. We had an opportunity to sample 3 really delicious PA wines. Steve Wildy, a wine expert, after spending his early childhood in Northern Ireland, began his career in the restaurant industry at an early age in Pittsburgh as a dishwasher for a friend's restaurant. He immediately fell for the hustle and the bustle of the culinary world, and after relocating to Philadelphia in the early 90s to enroll in Drexel University's International Studies program, he continued to work up the ladder in the restaurant industry. As an intern with the European Parliament in Brussels, he was introduced to the fantastic food scene and the world's best beer, and the early notion that career in food and beverage might be better suited for him than a political career. Today, Steve shares with us the 3 delicious wines of PA and highlights the benefits of supporting local wineries and at the beautiful Glenford on the Delaware. We hope you enjoy.
So my name is Steve Wildy. I am a wine specialist based here in Philadelphia and thrilled to be in the beautiful Glenford Mansion on the Delaware here with Pam and Ross. And speaking today about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that is Pennsylvania wine. So if you don't know a ton about the Pennsylvania wine scene, I don't blame you. It's an industry that's fairly in its infancy. There's some beautiful wines being made. And I've selected a couple things here to express, to me, an idea of some of the more exciting side of the Pennsylvania wine scene. So if you know a little bit about wine, you probably know the great names Cabernet and Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay Merlot, a few grapes like that. The selection that we have today focuses on winemakers that are going off-road a little bit and finding grapes that they think are better suited to Pennsylvania's climate. Now, if you know a little bit more about wine, you probably know that Cabernet, Chardonnay are planted globally, and a lot of it is made. It's also an example of the highest echelon of winemaking, so the most expensive, hard to find, sought-after bottles, and then the very lowest rung wines that are mass-produced, maybe a little vapid, very affordable, and everything in between. So when a winery is starting out, a lot of times the inclination is to try to make a wine from those grapes because they're recognizable, people know what they are, they're maybe easier to sell. And there are a lot of wineries in Pennsylvania who make fantastic Chardonnay, fantastic Cabernet Sauvignon, but these wineries are doing something to me that's special, and that's trying to explore the terroir, the microclimates of Pennsylvania to discover grapes that are really well suited to this environment. And grapes are like anything else. It's like a plant that will do well in a certain environment versus one that needs more sun, less moisture. So grapes behave very differently based on where they're planted. And we'll start, if we can, with a taste of a grape that's not unknown, Riesling. Now, if you know anything about the New York wine scene in the Finger Lakes, winemakers there work really hard to prove that there's a space for New York in the world-class winemaking scene with great, great Riesling. And we're fortunate that a lot of Pennsylvania winemakers have come to the same conclusion. So this is one of my favorites. I'll pour us a couple splashes here to taste. So this is a winery called Galen Glen, based in the Lehigh Valley. It is a wife and husband team, Sarah and Galen Troxel, and they're making wine with their daughter now, Erin. So it's a true family-run business, tiny operation. They are one of the trailblazers of the PA wine scene. So they started in 1995, when there were maybe 30 wineries in PA all told. Now they're probably closer to 300, 25 years later. So really pioneers of the scene. And from the beginning, focused on Germanic grape varieties. So this is Riesling. Riesling can be really polarizing for some, in that often it's kind of a sweeter wine, and that's true of a lot of Rieslings. But this is Riesling made in the way that I really enjoy, which is drier, fresher, more acidity. So should we give this a little sip?
Sure. I've already started.
So are they making ice wine in
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the Galen Glen has made ice wine. There are a couple of wineries in Pennsylvania who make that style. But these guys focus on a wide number of wines, but a lot of drier styles like this one.
This is delightful. I like dry wine. So this I really like this a lot.
But it's a Riesling.
But it's a Riesling. Yes.
So this is very classic Riesling aroma and flavor. So lots of citrus peel, lime zest, lemon zest, something kind of uniquely floral to it. And then what's cool about Riesling is that there's this secondary kind of stony mineral note to it. Usually when I'm doing a larger tasting like this to an audience, people will start to roll their eyes a little bit. You'll see it in the crowd when you start to say some of the wine descriptors. So I don't know if you guys did it, but I'll imagine it for the folks watching. But this has a lot of that character. And then when you taste it, what's really interesting about Riesling is it often seems like a kind of straightforward, crisp, easy drinking wine. But as you sit with it, you really find these layers. There's a lot of complexity packed into a very kind of narrow bandwidth. And that's what I love about it. It's also extremely food friendly. You can have this with anything, spicy food, seafood, does well with, across the gamut. So this is in Galen Glen. I'm not the only one that loves this wine. This was voted by the Pennsylvania Winery Association as the winner of the year for PA in 2019. This one is a 2018. That's great. Fossil Vineyard Riesling. So killer stuff, and again, trailblazers kind of up the scene, and especially with Germanic grape varieties.
Great. So we'll have all this information at the end of the Zoom so everybody can come and check it out and try it on their own.
So as a wine expert, what's your feeling about the difference between screw-on tops and corks?
Cool. So you see a lot of people have moved to these screw-on caps, the Stelvin enclosure. They're great, affordable, well-kept. Cork is beautiful. There's a lot of theater and ceremony to opening a cork, but there can be a lot of issues with how that wine carries on the evolution of its life with exposure to oxygen, with taint in the cork that can cause off flavors and things like that. So cork is more expensive to work with. It's also a little bit more volatile in terms of what might happen to the wine that's in there. So I love cork, but I love screw caps as well, especially when the wine has a drive toward being a fresher, kind of lighter style, which this wine is, and the next wine that we're about to taste is.
So we shouldn't judge a wine as lesser because it has a twist on it.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there's a lot of wines that are extremely high priced in value and quality that are still under screw cap enclosures.
Thank you. Right. I was curious about that. and what is the bottle of this stuff?
So from the winery, I'm guessing this is probably in the $30 range or so, 35 maybe. So great value. Okay. Now we have, moving into something that's lesser known than Riesling for sure. This is Alvarinho. And Alvarinho is very popular in Spain and Portugal. And there's a handful of Pennsylvania wineries that are growing it. And this to me is one of the most fantastic examples, another pioneer in growing this grape. This is Maple Springs. So these guys are based north of Pottstown. Passion project that was founded in 2008 on a beautiful 1750s farm by a woman named Marianne Lieberman. They've been making great wines ever since. And so Alvarinho, typically a coastal wine in Spain and Portugal, and very different here than the Riesling in that a lot more fruit jumps out of the glass.
I've been noticing that. Yes.
Yeah, so where the Riesling a little bit more precise, kind of cleaner citrus flavors, here you have something a little bit more exotic, a little lusher. To me, this is citrus here, kind of like a sweeter orange, maybe like sweet ruby red grapefruit. But then there's this other layer of lush kind of honeydew melon, cantaloupe, also something floral, honeysuckle flowers.
It has a second wave of flavor after the first initial.
Yeah.
I have never heard of Alvarinho.
Yeah, you can spell it as Alvarinho or Alvarinho, depending on where you are. Now, a little bit more weight to it than the Riesling. Alvarinho is a thick-skinned grape, so you get a little bit more texture, more richness, and even this pleasant little note of bitterness right on the finish that adds this kind of extra edge to the wine. Still has freshness to it, like the Riesling we just tasted. It's still uplifting, vibrant, mouth-watering, has all these things going on, but maybe a little bit more kind of outspoken than the Riesling we just had was. So again, fantastic winemaking here. This is a beautiful winery. It's a great one to visit, and that's Maple Springs, Albarino.
Very nice.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, that's in maybe 5 or so wineries currently making Albarino, and I think with examples like this, we'll see a lot more Pennsylvania wineries start to plant it.
Just for those of you who are watching, if you're going to day drink, at least pick some wonderful wines to day drink. Do I say that it's 10 o'clock in the morning?
Okay. So our last wine to taste is a red wine. And this is a grape that I think is kind of Pennsylvania's secret weapon.
This is great.
All right, this is Cabernet Franc. And there are a good amount of wineries in Pennsylvania who have planted this and done very well with it. It's actually the first Pennsylvania wine that I had was a Cabernet Franc. First wine that I had that made me think, wow, there's something really special going on in the state, in the winemaking here. And so Cabernet Franc is actually a parent of Cabernet Sauvignon. So grapes can cross and hybridize and merge like a number of other plants can. So it is a cross between, Cabernet Sauvignon is a cross between Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. So this is the parent grape of Cabernet Sauvignon. And it is a little different. So it has a different expression. To me, so much charm in a wine like this, where there's a lot of like really fresh crushed berry character, fresh crushed red currants, blackberries, and then the second wave of really floral and really herbaceous character. It's almost as if you took berries and muddled them with a little bit of lavender, violet, and something herbaceous, maybe like bay leaf, tobacco. So Cabernet Franc.
It's delicious. This is very nice. I lean toward a red wine.
Yeah.
This is very nice.
Yeah.
Because I like the dry, but this is really, all of them have been fabulous. This is delightful.
So I feel like it's a dry, medium body. So a wine that's really food friendly as well. So really versatile. This is one that I have great success pairing with seafood dishes that have an herbaceous component to them. So bass with pesto or something like that, or wilted greens. This wine really comes alive. And this is an interesting story. It's a winery based in Nottingham, PA, outside of Kennett Square, run by 2 younger brothers in their late 20s. And they started the winery in 2010 when they were each 19 and 17 years old.
Wow.
So really early start, really like a lot of vision and a lot of courage to start that early. And the wines are amazing. They're really just great, charming family, very affable, and really are on a pursuit of what works well. A lot of these winemakers take what they do very seriously, but also are exploring and kind of rolling with the punches in terms of what works, what doesn't. And I find that a lot with these gentlemen, Zach and James Wilson out of Wayvine. So that's Cabernet Franc. That's a trio of 3 Pennsylvania wines that I think really showcase some of the exciting things happening in the wine scene here.
I'm going to ask you, we're going to talk about Steve. We're going to talk about how did you end up moving into this direction and becoming a wine expert? Because I'm sure a lot of us who are watching drink a lot of wine, but I'm certainly not an expert. So how did you end up down this path?
So I'm still figuring things out day by day, but I was lucky to get a start in the restaurant world. When I was 15 or so, washing dishes at a friend's parents' restaurant, and fell in love with the restaurant world right away, just the hustle and bustle of it, and kept working in restaurants through college to pay the bills. I waited tables, and through there got exposure, very, server level exposure to drinking wine and enjoying different things on wine lists. At some time, I started to take it more seriously and got into a restaurant gig for a restaurant named Vetri, to work in that. It's a well-known Italian high-end restaurant. I was given an opportunity to work with that wine list, and way over my head when I started there, because I did not have any right to be anywhere near a wine list like that. But the owners took a chance on me and were really generous in letting me do a deep dive and study. And so I was very fortunate to work in an environment where I was serving wine every day, talking about wine every day through wine pairings and things like that. And fell in love with it hard. And so I've enjoyed wine ever since. I've worked in the restaurant industry in various stages as a beverage director mainly, so building wine lists, beer lists, cocktail lists, things like that for our restaurant group in Philly. And now I'm doing other things in consulting and educational things like that. But you can start anywhere with wine. You know, the thing is something that stuck with me early on, especially talking to tables about wine and guests who maybe didn't have great knowledge, is that everybody starts somewhere and nobody's born with all this knowledge. So the way to learn it is just to taste and talk about it, find people that you'd like to listen to talk about wine, or find a wine shop where somebody speaks a language that makes sense to you and follow down that path. And so there's a whole world. Again, I know just a tiny fraction of it. There's so much out there, and that's what keeps this industry exciting as well. There's always something new around the corner. And if you asked me 10 years ago if I'd be raving about Pennsylvania wine, I probably would have rolled my eyes myself. But I think it's you know, an amazing thing happening here. It's a really exciting thing.
That's wonderful. So you've had the opportunity of being within the industry to be able to send you down this path. For those of us who have not been in the industry, but they're really interested in learning, you've alluded to the fact of finding a mentor. I'm sure there are a lot of things online, especially in COVID, for people. But is there an opportunity for some formal training?
There are a couple of different institutions. If you look up wine education in whatever area you are, there's Philadelphia Wine School, there's online courses, there's websites like Wine Folly that offers interactive learning and things like that. So there's always a place to start. And in the podcast era, there's so much information out there. There's a podcast that I love called I'll Drink to That. There's very high level interviews with winemakers and wine experts and things like that. You could pop that on your job or drive to work and really learn a lot just by listening kind of passively. There's plenty of resources out there.
It's just the seek and the find.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, I think it's really important to find language that works for you. We all speak different languages on wine and food and all those things. We all learn differently. So
I learned by tasting.
Right. Well, we got to taste more.
But having language, having words to describe your experience makes the experience so much richer. So in our art classes that we have and our art appreciation program that we're developing here going forward, we put language on our visual experience so similar to what you're doing, you know, putting language onto the taste experience. And the more words you have, the more you can think about it, and the more you can taste it, the more you can experience it.
Well, this is an artisan experience.
Yes.
True, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
When you have where you're supporting, and we hope you're all supporting your local wineries regardless of where you are in the country.
Right.
People across the country will be doing this, and support your local wineries.
I just heard on the radio this morning, alcohol consumption is up 30% since the quarantine.
Well, you know what, and you're welcome, because I'm sure I'm at the top of that list. So, but now that you've opened up my world to a lot more of an experience with wine rather than my normal go-to. And I pigeonholed myself, which I'm sure a lot of people have, pigeonholed yourself where I like this, it's safe, I'm going to continue, but to take an opportunity to really expand, you may find your new favorite.
Right. And yeah, I can't touch on it. Wine is farming. These are farmers locally who are, you know, they're not factories, they're just people, families who are working day in, day out to do something special. And the more we can support that, the better. To me, there's a really special connection available here with the person that makes the wine, where to me, a wine tastes that much better when I know the mind behind it, when I know the hands working it, and can get a sense of their personality. And the beautiful thing about wine is sometimes that personality really carries through to what's in the glass. So if you can visit these wineries or any wineries near you, a great resource is the Pennsylvania Winery Association that has a website called PennsylvaniaWine.com, and they have a great map to see which wineries in the area near you, but whatever region you're in. Again, important is to support local, visit these wineries, see the vineyards, see the fields. Harvest is happening right now in September in Pennsylvania, which is exciting too. You can often volunteer to go and pick grapes and have that experience at a winery near you.
So those of you who are viewing this, we are recording it the beginning of September. So we are, so if you are seeing this for the first time in January or February, but I'm sure a lot of these wineries will have delivery that you can actually have them sent to your home, or a lot of them offer a subscription in some cases with wineries as well. We'll make sure that we put the Pennsylvania Winery link at the end of this Zoom. So any closing thoughts? I do have one last question, sorry. One last question. If I wanted to become a wine collector, where do I begin?
So first step is finding what you like. You know, you don't want to start with all the things you were told are good, told you're going to age well, you're going to like someday. Start with things that you enjoy. And then there's some research involved in finding out which wines age and which wines don't. So find a wine shop that speaks the same language you do, that has turned you on to wines that you enjoy, or shop online and try some things and find a wine that you like. And then there's information out there on whether a wine is suited to age or not. It doesn't have to be an expensive wine necessarily to age well. It just takes patience and hiding something in a corner that you know you're not going to go down and say, you know what, I want to try that wine right now, bring it up for dinner tonight. So having space to hide your wines is a good part of collecting. I don't have too much diligence there. I'm the one that's always like, no, I really want to try it, I want to bring it up. But yeah, if you can find wines that you love and talk to somebody, again, whose opinions you admire online about whether or not it's age-worthy and things like that, and then it becomes fun. It's great to see wine evolve, especially in your own stead, to see what changes, how the wine develops over time. There's nothing like aged wine or a heady experience that really moves you and takes you somewhere different.
Great response. Well, thank you, Steve Wildy. You have definitely opened Ross and I our eyes up to experiencing Pennsylvania wine, so we really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mitchell is the executive director here at Glenford, who gave us this beautiful setting to be able to have a bougie wine tasting. And so thank you very much, Ross, and we appreciate that. And here's to all of you who continue to drink. We have 3 bottles of wine to finish. So thank you very much, and we hope you enjoyed this session.
Cheers.
I would like to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors. Through their support, we are able to bring you quality programming and a virtual networking experience. I'd like to thank our corporate sponsors, Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, Parks Casino, TD Bank, Marshall's Distribution Center, Philadelphia. I'd like to thank our executive sponsors, Chorus Services, Holy Family University, Inverse Paradox, Jefferson Health Northeast, Nazareth Hospital, Northeast Family YMCA, PICO, Philadelphia Gas Works, Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation, Rivers Casino, St. Basil Academy, and Witham Smith & Brown. I'd also like to thank our media sponsor, Northeast Times, our production sponsor, Viral Ideas Marketing, and our session sponsors, Fast Signs of Northeast Philadelphia. Please take a moment to reach out to our sponsors and share your positive experience as a subscriber of the 2020 Women in Business Conference. Thank you very much for subscribing, and we hope you enjoy our programming.